Hey YouTube, it's time for a little update on my breadth year. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you may have heard of the concept of a depth year going around a lot in 2019 on the YouTubes, and I decided to instead do a breadth year, so basically the opposite. I did make a video about why I wanted to do a breadth year, but I don't think I went into much detail about what specific things I was doing. They're not really rules for this. They're more like intentions, but I didn't go into detail about them. And I thought it might be interesting. Here we are at the very beginning of September 2019 to talk about my progress so far and what I'm hoping for the last 4 months of the year before I get into my depth year in 2020. So I will start by talking about the things that I have done, and then I will talk about the things that I am in the middle of, and then I will talk about the things that I intend to do. So things I have done that I've been able to check off. So one was basically redoing, doing my KonMari reset, which I posted about on this channel earlier in the year. So I wanted to declutter. One of the things I thought would be useful for a depth year is not having a bunch of stuff around to remind me of things I don't actually want to be doing. I also, one of the big projects that I just finished, and oh my god, it was a slog. And I know it's not 100%, it's finished in a sense. It's not quite as good as I would want it to be. But basically what I did is on Goodreads, I cleared down my to-read shelf by a lot. So I think it was, I did do another culling before, so I'm not sure exactly where it started, but I think it was a little under 6,000 books. And I did math, and I figured out that in the rest of my lifetime, reading at like a fairly average up and down speed, probably I'm only going to be able to read about 1,500 more books. Maybe 2,000, but not 6. So I went through and I got rid of so many things on the to-read shelf. It was actually really cathartic because if you have a big to-read shelf, I recommend doing this because, I had stuff on there. I've had Goodreads since like 2008 or so, and man, I used to love, I spent so much of law school not paying attention to the lecture and just adding things to Goodreads in this catatonic state. I would add things from bibliographies of books I liked. I'd add half the bibliography of some academic book. I would add things that were recommended. I would just go, I used to love Goodreads Listopia? Yeah, Listopia. I would just look up categories that I wanted to read about and just add all the books in the lists. Really, I'm not going to read all that. And, of course, my interests have changed since 2008. So there's a lot of stuff that I was able to remove. I don't have time for dense theory anymore. I know for a fact that I'm not going to be an academic ever again. And I don't really, even if it's the best dense theory ever. I'm sorry, Foucault. I'm done with Foucault for life. I used to read Foucault in French, and I just what? Why was I spending time on that? So I got rid of a bunch of more academic stuff. I remembered from one shelf that apparently I used to want to get a PhD. I had a plan to get a PhD in gender studies. Completely forgot about that, but I had a whole PhD prep list that was the recommendations to get into the program for gender studies. So cleared out a bunch of academic stuff, cleared out a bunch of anything that involves a white man traveling or a white man doing an ethnography. Mostly just white men. I didn't clear all the white men from my shelf, but a lot of that kind of stuff. White men observing other cultures. Goodbye. Anything that involved, with literature, anything that was oh, this is the classic, you have to read it. One thing I really like about Goodreads is that they do so you get the book information, you get the summary, and then you get things like how many pages it was, when it was published, and then you get friend reviews followed by community reviews. And I find that extremely useful because I realized that looking at a star rating, the average across the community, is not necessarily going to tell me whether I'm going to like the book. It's useful. If something has a ton of reviews and it's 2-star average, well, that's telling. But who is the average reader on Goodreads? interesting question. And so the friend reviews, like, really helped me to narrow down, because one, just the stars are interesting, but two, some of the people that I friend on Goodreads very helpfully will provide information like, hey, there's some trans misogyny in this book, or hey, there's some racism in this book that I wouldn't have known just by looking at the general reviews, or I might not have known. So that really helped me to pull things out. And so there were certain categories where, like, if it's like epic fantasy written by a white guy, I'm probably gonna delete it unless there's tons of 5-star friend reviews, and then I'm like, okay, this is something special. I think going through my Goodreads really helped me to let go and to understand something that a lesson I've been continuously learning for maybe 10 years now, is the idea that just because you might like it and you might enjoy it and it's quality doesn't mean you have to do it. So this is true in books, cooking, hobbies, all sorts of things. Just because it appeals to you doesn't mean you have to do it. So just because the book has, I don't know, post-colonial, anti-colonialism in the title doesn't mean that I have to add it to my shelf. There's only so many that you can read. Certain topics where I had like 20 books on the same topic, and I really just wanted one book on that topic. So I got rid of a lot, but it's still at about 3,600, I think. So it's still well above the 2,000 max. I decided to make peace with that because I couldn't really call it more, and I thought, well, it doesn't hurt to have options. You might not be able to get your hands on some of these books. It's not really a problem. As Lindsay Mack would say, it's not a problem. I love that phrase, just nothing is a problem. So, I think it at least gets me to the point where now in my depth year, when I want to do reading, and I am going to be more specific, like I'm going to try to read some specific books, but at any time in the future when I'm looking for a book, it's not so buried in stuff that I may or may not want to read. I know that everything on my list now, I've at least glanced at the description and the reviews, and so I at least know that I was still interested as of 2019. That was a lot of rambling on Goodreads, but it is near and dear to my heart. Another one was to choose and buy some games that I actually want to play. I don't know if it's totally fair to check that off, because I think it may still be sort of active, but I did go through Steam and during the summer sale and try to identify the games that I was really particularly interested in and get those and leave the rest for another time. Get a piano. Did it. Bought a piano. It's pretty rad. It's a digital piano and I love it. Cool. Those are the only ones I checked off out of a list of probably 20 or 30. So, but I am in progress on some of these. So I'm very close to finishing this item that says refine personal style and obtain key items. Let go of extra t-shirts. So I've talked about this before on the channel. I've really been in the process of figuring out what my style is and what items I want. And I kind of had to do the summer version of that because I had done it really well for cold weather, and then I needed warm weather, and it was a lot harder to figure out my style for warm weather. But with a recent online purchase that I'm hoping everything will fit. It's all the same brand. It usually fits me, so we'll see. But I think I've gotten to a good, like very close to a good stopping point where my wardrobe is complete. And then the only thing I have to do is pick which t-shirts to let go of. And I'm now down to like maybe 10, and it's getting harder to remove. Like, I'm probably going to get rid of this. Can you see it? No. Probably going to get rid of this procrastinate Dalek shirt, but it's kind of hilarious, and I like the colors. So yeah, that one's almost done. I am actively working on clearing out my Evernote. I'm kind of waffling on how important this is, but I have particularly a lot of blog posts from about a 5-year period saved. And I'm just going through and figuring out, like, if it's really well written, I'm going to keep it. Like, if it's something I would want to read again, I'm going to keep it. If it's something that is, like, a really good explanation or advice or something that I can, like, hand to somebody and be like, this is what I mean when I say spoonie or something. Those things and, like, tools that I can use. but not just like every blog post that was sort of good. So I'm working on that. I think I started with definitely over 2,000, maybe like 2,500, and I'm down to about 1,500, so not bad. What else have I done some of? I've been working my way through, so one of them was watch all the DVDs in my Netflix queue. I got my next Netflix queue down to about 10, went up a little bit to about 12, because as I'm going through Evernote, I'm seeing things that I tagged to watch later, and a couple of them I did add, but basically I want to get rid of the DVD subscription to Netflix, so I'm trying to watch the things that I most want to see that are not available streaming, and then cancel that. So I'm hoping to do that by the end of the year. Related to the Goodreads is identifying authors that I like to read more of. So I'm starting to do this. I think I would like my depth year to not necessarily restrict all my reading to specific authors, but to have a goal to like read several books by a few specific authors that I really want to spend time with. Refine my music interests and discovery. So this is something I really have been enjoying. I haven't even got into all the cool Spotify tools and like the playlist they will generate for you and stuff, but mainly what I've done is, because I went back archive of the Tiny Desk concerts, which if you don't know NPR Tiny Desk, it's a lot of concerts, but I went through all of them. And when I liked an artist, I added an album to my library. And so I've been in the process of going through, listening to a full album and then deciding, do I want to keep it? If it's in my head out of 5, at least 3 stars, I will keep it. And then I will add in my bullet journal, which is somewhere, I put in little album review, just the name of the album, the artist, 3 to 5 stars. I need to go to Michael's and get more star stickers. I'm out. And then like a little brief description. So something like, singer-songwriter Jeff Buckley-esque, or, queer dance pop or something. So if I'm looking for that thing, I can do it. Because the one thing that I miss from iTunes, and I'm not going back to iTunes, but the one thing that I miss is it was much better about tagging music and like being able to categorize. You can make playlists, but I want to be able to say like this album is this genre, and I can't do that, and it annoys me in Spotify. And also trying to add single songs to my playlist that I like, because next year I want to spend more time listening to music that I know I like already. So I'll probably do that right up to the end of the year. I'm at F out of A through Z and going through the albums by artist name. Figure out my flow with tarot and astrology. Still working on it. Related, establish habits, routines, and review practices and tweak as needed. I've been really up and down this year about my weekly and monthly reviews. I do the monthly, but not necessarily the whole thing consistently. And then the weekly I don't do every week. And I really need to get back into it. And with tarot and astrology, like, I've gotten pretty good at doing a monthly check-in with the cards. Sometimes I do a weekly check-in. And I've gotten pretty good at paying attention to the astrology for the month and writing some notes, but I don't always refer back to it. And I'd really like to get into more of a practice of actually using it and actually like having in my mind the key stuff for the month throughout the month instead of just at the beginning. So even just weekly, like looking back at the month. But I don't do that. Fine-tuning my social media, my podcast, and my blog followings until I can keep up. So this is something that I'm in progress of doing. But I stopped. I'm sorry, by the way, if you're on Instagram, I just stopped Instagram and Twitter. Did it for a few weeks. I called down the list. I did it for a few weeks and I stopped. So I don't know if it's necessarily because the lists are still too long. I think it just may be that I need to get into the habit of doing it, and I wish it didn't feel like a chore, because I actually like connecting with people when I do, but when I'm out of that habit, it's easy to just not do it for a long time and to only generate content, and that's kind of selfish, right? To be like, here, respond to my content, but I won't respond to yours. So I gotta get better about that. The blogs are pretty good. The blogs are a good place, and I've called down the podcast so that I am actually more or less on top of my podcast queue, so that's great. That's new for me. Except in order to do it, I'm spending so much time on podcasts, and I'm not spending as much time on music, so maybe that could still use some work. What of this have I done? Take a trip to Montreal. I'm doing it in a week and a half. So excited. Probably, actually, this is going to go out while I'm in Montreal. So Yeah, going with my dad, super excited. I will definitely do a vlog about it, or at least a recap. And I think those are all the ones I've started. So what I have remaining, it feels like a lot, but so organizing the documents on my hard drive, which are a mess, and in the process deleting digital stuff that I never want to use or read. I have a lot of accumulated zines, ebooks, PDFs that are not organized, and some of which I probably will never look at. And so in order to next year actually spend the time sitting down with those things that are probably amazing things that I've collected over the years, I want to call down the list. Watching let's plays of the games I don't actually want to play. So along with identifying the games I do want to play next year, I would like to, as much as possible, watch a let's play of the games that I'm really interested in but don't think that they're really right for me as a player, so that I'm not thinking about them all the time. Download yoga videos and cancel my subscription to Yoga Download. I got like the annual subscription. I don't actually have complicated feelings about yoga, so I don't talk about it a lot on this channel, but I haven't really been practicing, so I just need to like download the videos. I'll have them forever and then unsubscribe. So then unsubscribing from email lists until I can keep up. This I have not done. I need to go through the filter where I throw them, and just most of them are tarot and astrology related newsletters, and decide like which are the ones that I really value and like, and which are the ones that I can unsubscribe from, and then get into a habit of actually reading them, because a lot of those, especially astrology ones, are more relevant if you read them when they came out. So this one, these next few, I'm having mixed feelings about. So I had put down saying yes to social opportunities and deepening relationships to find out what sticks. So in other words, spending a lot of time this year being willing to be more social than I naturally am, and then saying, you know, if a relationship really grows and feels good and is going to stick around, then spend time with those people in 2020. I haven't been that social. I just haven't been. My health has not been great. I haven't done it. I had trying to restart monthly board game parties, and I'm just not totally sure that that's something I want to do. I am very sad that I can't play my board games because I don't have people. At the same time, I don't really want to have a party. So maybe figuring out another way to get people in small chunks over to play board games would be good. And then I need to start planning and sending out an advance, like save the date for this big birthday thing I want to do in March, because it's 6 months now, and I want to give people who are out of town like really good advance notice, and it just feels like a lot. It's not that hard though, so I just need to do it. And then the last few are specifically kind of, I'm holding them for a sabbatical that I'm going to take. It's not a formal sabbatical, but I'm calling it that. Basically I have a lot of saved up PTO, and I'm going to take off from that holiday in November week through the end of New Year's week. Oh, if you're not from the US, sorry, that holiday in November is not very descriptive. The Thanksgiving thing, except I don't celebrate that for native sovereignty, cultural appropriation, etc. reasons. So during the sabbatical, there's a few specific things I want to do. I want to start learning Spanish, which start is sort of a misnomer, because I'm fairly fluent in French and I live in the United States, which means I can read Spanish and I can understand it if it's spoken slowly, and so I just want to like actually know it. So I want to do that. I didn't write this down, but I also would like to do some regular piano practice while I'm not working, and then I want to read the little white books, which are often large, not white books, for the decks that I feel like I can't really read from without referencing right now. The decks that are really specific, so like the Wild Messengers, the Dust of Onyx, I just got the Botanical, I think that'll be on there. Get to know, do some like intense study of decks. Also work on the tarot courses that I bought and paid for and either haven't finished or haven't started. Just doing some really like grounded study during my sabbatical, and then I'll continue into the depth year with some like focus decks, but I want to start there. And then just like finally wrapping up is exploring exactly what I want to do in depth and what feels ready to clear. So going through the rules that I've already sort of established earlier this year for what I think I want to do next for depth year, but then clarifying that. So that was a lot. I don't know, I just rambled for 20 minutes about myself. I don't know if that was interesting or not or what, but I know a lot of people do these videos, so presumably some people like to watch them. So let me know, did you like this kind of thing? Do you not like this kind of thing? If you do like this kind of thing, like and subscribe. And if you don't, you can leave me a comment as long as you're nice about it, and I will take that into consideration. And yeah, I'm enjoying seeing a lot of your depth year updates and how that's going, and you will have those from me when the new year starts.